I'm back with another video. And in this one, I wanted to share with you an activity that I really like to do as a follow-up to introducing a mini book. And it can be done face-to-face. I've done it lots and lots of times with my face-to-face classes, but it also can be done on Zoom. And I'm even going to share with you how you could do this as well in an asynchronous setting. And I will get to that toward the end of this video. So the activity that I came up with is called directed coloring. And it is a listening comprehension activity, certainly with scaffolding as necessary. Whenever I'm starting with new content, I always like to start with listening comprehension activities as opposed to activities that are going to require a lot of output. That's just kind of the flow of my themes, generally speaking. And I really like this activity of directed coloring for two particular reasons. The one reason is because I really like to leverage the activity of coloring. So many students, I myself also, really love to color. But sometimes, but if they're doing their coloring, they may not be receiving input at the same time, right? So this is a way to leverage an activity that they really like while still providing input. And the secondary reason why I really like it is that, as you know, my mini books, I include illustrations, right? I do all the illustrations for my mini books, and I do that on purpose, in large part, to be able to scaffold the text with an illustration that helps to convey the meaning and helps students understand what the storyline is saying, right? But it's also there for kids to color and interact with. We have those kids who may color really quickly and get through a whole mini book, right? And say, hey, I'm done, while you have another kiddo who's still working on the cover. So directed coloring kind of slows that process down a little bit and keeps all of your students basically in the same place. And if you follow me at all, you know that this is a huge strategy that I've developed when it comes to giving instructions as well, going step by step, rather than giving all of the instructions at once and then setting them free. I always go one step at a time. We do that step and then we go to the next one and so on and so forth as a group. And this has been really a successful strategy that I've developed both for keeping in the target language and scaffolding my students. And I actually have a blog post. I'll put the link in the comments for the YouTube, on YouTube, so that you can see a little bit more of what I mean by that. So, directed coloring. The idea, and it's such a simple concept, and if you have any of my theme packs, you've probably seen it in there as one of the theme activities. But the idea is that once you've introduced a mini book and you've done all the scaffolding to convey meaning and to help them understand what's happening in the storyline, then I'm going to go back with a number of my mini books, and I'm going to do this activity as a listening comprehension, as I said, and as a way to interact with the mini book itself and the text and the illustrations, which I really also feel gives a lot more opportunity for kids to just kind of experience the storyline and the mini book and, of course, the language. So, and I do have a video on introducing this mini book, which I will also put in the YouTube comments so you can see how I do that. But this was inspired by the game Who Stole the Cookie from the Cookie Jar, except in this instance, it's Who Stole Olivia's Eggs from her windowsill. And I wrote and illustrated it with the idea of introducing farm animals as well as pronouns. So to kind of work on those, because you'll see how that works with these. So the first prompt for directed coloring would be for me to tell them to color something, and then they need to find it in the mini book and color it. So for example, find the cow and color it. And so they would flip through the book until they found the cow, and they would color the cow, and then they would stop, right? And they would wait for the next prompt. This is what I really love about it, right? So they're not going off and coloring everything else, they're just coloring the cow. And so I give them a limited amount of time with that, right? We're not going to color the cow for an hour. We're going to color for a couple of minutes. And then I'm going to give the next prompt, color the sheep and stop. So So then they're going to find the sheep, they're going to color the sheep, and they're going to stop. And we're going to continue in that fashion until they've colored all the things that I feel that they should be coloring, or that I want to reinforce or practice, right? Or maybe time limit could also be a factor. But the idea being that they are listening and finding what it is and following the prompt. I will say that typically, especially since it's new content, I am most likely going to also be holding up the cards that come along with our theme packs that focus in on that vocabulary to give scaffolding for those students. So it's okay for, in my mind, if I am saying, you know, find the horse, and I hold up, like I wait a second and let kids just kind of process that a little bit, and then I hold up a picture of a horse. And this way I also avoid them translating or interpreting. I mean, some are still going to do it, but I have fewer of them do it when I hold up the scaffold of a visual, and then they just can go right to that in the book, right? And what I have noticed over time is that those kids who still need the visual support are going to use it, and that's great, right? I'm there to scaffold and help my students. Those kids who no longer need it, who might have picked up that particular vocabulary, they're not going to look at it, or maybe they'll just glance at it, but they've already got it in their head. So it's not like I'm giving them help that they don't need. So this works, as I said, really, really well in a face-to-face setting. For Zoom, it works just as well. The only caveat is that you need to get the mini books to the kids. Whether if your families have printing capability at home, then they would be able to print it out at home, or you might be able to send it home. I have talked about this multiple times this past summer around sending things home through your district. If they have that capability, I highly recommend taking advantage of it so you can get materials home to them. And so that you would just do this on Zoom just like you would in class. I promise the asynchronous. And so with asynchronous, it's obviously a little trickier, right? So, but what you would do is you could create a video, a short video with each of the prompts, and kids would listen to that video or watch that video, and they would color along to your prompts. Obviously, in that situation, you can't, you don't know whether they're going to just listen to the whole thing and then do the coloring as they want to or not. It doesn't matter. You've provided that video input to go along with it as a separate activity above and beyond teaching the mini book itself. So there you go. Those are some tips, and I will put those links in the comments, and I hope this has been helpful. This is an activity I really love to do with a lot of my different mini books. And I hope it inspires you. I will see you next time. Bye.